you're taking basically a family business that had nothing to do with Bitcoin to be more and more into Bitcoin, like almost a strategy move, a micro strategy a move in Germany. How did you actually get into Bitcoin and discover that, and also decided to not only just buy it personally, but also do something with the business with it?
That's a very good question, and I get it very, very often. So it's a huge coincidence, because as the CEO of this big company, and when we have lots of facilities and production here in Bavaria, but also we also run a second site in Saxony that is in the eastern part of Germany. And I am also in charge of all the renovations and construction works here, that it's all looking good. And this one day, I had a discussion. So how should we paint this wall? It was literally about painting walls with this guy, and his name's Ingo. And we had an espresso together, because I'm always friendly to all of our partners. We worked together for a long time. And we came into a discussion about investing and this and that and real estate. And then he showed me his mobile phone, where this crypto app, and said like, "Hey, Chris, you're a CEO. You did study economics at university, and so what should I buy? What should I sell?" Like trading and stuff like that. There's Bitcoin. There's this these and that in crypto. And I looked at him and said, "Ingo, I don't know what you're talking about. I never heard about all of these things, but this is who I am. I wanted to give him a proper answer." So I did study the technology. I did look into Bitcoin. And back then, there were not so many podcasts and books and YouTube channels in 2021. I mean, when I look back, it's like 100 years ago, but it's just 4 years ago, plus minus. And I always had this negative gut feeling about central bank digital currencies and social credit system. I was always a big fan of cash, cold hard cash. I don't know why, but so this was a contact point with Bitcoin, with the technology. But then, and that was like for me even more disruptive and mind-blowing, when I did look into Bitcoin mining and what it does for energy transition, being, like I say, even today when we go on trade fairs, that is important puzzle piece for energy transition in all over Europe, not only in Germany. And we produce goods and things. We produce spraying components, technical plastic components for the automobile industry, but also cosmetics. So for me, it was crystal clear that we also have to produce Bitcoin within our company, and also to get independent from grid operators and the markets and regulation and this and that. So this is the whole journey in a nutshell, very short.
Yeah, I love that you not only went ahead and said like, oh, like I like Bitcoin, but let's find something we can do in Bitcoin and let's produce Bitcoin. So you started Bitcoin mining. I guess you also started adopting Bitcoin in some shape or form on the balance sheet.
Yes, exactly. So in 2021, when I was orange pilled, it took round about 2 more months also to integrate it into our company strategy, because as a family business, long lasting tradition, you cannot differentiate completely between private life and then also the company and what you're doing there. And there was also this specific this topic which didn't get out of my mind, didn't get out of my head, when we partner with our banks, and let's say we have 5 or 6 traditional banks. We work together and we have deposits there, and we have money there for bad times especially. So we did save in euro back then in fiat. And there was this time with the negative income rates and stuff like that, so that the banks charged us. They wanted to charge us that we have our money that we earned over decades. They wanted to charge us. So that didn't get into my head as well. So on top, this was the solution Bitcoin, to have Bitcoin on our balance sheet integrated in a serious way, not like the Bitcoin maximalists going all in and then also leverage it to the maximum, but in a serious way, traditional family business philosophy, thinking across generations. This is our philosophy. So this philosophy perfectly fits the Bitcoin long-term thinking philosophy. So we save in Bitcoin certain amount, and we do it until today and for many decades to come.
That's such a weird thing. I heard that too, and it was really interesting for me to hear that not only you're giving them your money, not only they're extracting already inflation from that, the banking system, but then also like, oh yeah, please pay us something so we have your money and you have no control of it. Like, what is that? That was a
Exactly.
really weird concept.
Yeah. If you think about that, like as a Bitcoiner, it's completely obvious. But when millions of people and the government says, okay, that is the way to go, then perhaps most people think, yeah, that's okay, that's fine, I understand. But that's not us, right?
Yeah, I'm often asking myself when this big awakening moment in society will come, and you see like, oh, I don't own the money, they extract inflation rates from me, I may have to pay a big banking fee or anything like that. So I don't know, like when there's a big moment coming, or the moment might never come, and Bitcoin just comes in our society through the back door, a little bit like TCP/IP protocol. Most people have no clue about it, but still use it every day. So I'm thinking a lot about that. But first,
I can tell you, Robin, it's definitely happening at the moment as we speak. This whole corporate adoption of Bitcoin on balance sheets. I mean, you have to imagine 2021 when I did that, it was not so easy to even find a crypto exchange, or even, I mean, Bitcoin only exchange where you can go as a classic German limited company, because it's something different compared to being a private person, retail investor going to some whatever nowadays. But back then it was not so easy. I had to go to Kraken, and we needed all these company documents, list of shareholder and this and that, the person behind the companies, the decision makers, company registry, all in English, and it was not there back then. And nowadays you have several Bitcoin only exchanges from Austria or from someplace else, whereas a company, as a German limited company, you can open up an account and buy Bitcoin. Even you even have your own personal VIP consultant where you can trade OTC and stuff like that. So it's a different time now, 4 years later.
Is that mostly on the corporate side? I feel like the last years it was a really high focus on institutional money, on corporate adoption, with MicroStrategy leading the way, but Semler Scientific, many famous examples. I mean, you also, and I
small scale.
compared to strategy, but like most German companies are small to compared to strategy, I guess. But yeah, like those things is really kind of accelerating fast and faster. And now we even have, I think this just happened last week or this week, where Coinbase now is in the S&P 500. And I think it's just a matter of time this strategy hopefully also gets in there. And we also already have Tesla in there that also still holds Bitcoin on the balance sheet. It really feels like there's a huge focus on institutional adoption. I just feel that retail is really sleeping on this one.
Yeah, look at the Google searches. That's exactly what I was heading at. We're above 100,000 K. We're maybe going to 150, 200,000 K, and retail is completely sleeping. And I'm asking myself why and where do we need to go when we talk about the Bitcoin price or adoption. But at the end, Robin, what you need, and this was my goal all along in my vision, to be a role model, to be a pioneer for others. Because look, back in 2021, when I started my journey going on conferences, I didn't even use my real full name, like Kristian Kläger. I used my Twitter name for 1.5 years, like when I started doing keynotes, Bitcoin Hotel near Stuttgart, and this and that, and Innsbruck, and so on and so on. It was a weird feeling when I was invited to my first podcast, and then as someone said, my guest today is Kristian Kläger from Augsburg. And back then and until today, there are hundreds of family businesses, businesses with traditional corporations that integrated a Bitcoin strategy, but not in public. I know so many companies, and we set up and we execute all those trainings and workshops for these companies, because this is one of our services we offer to businesses, the trainings and workshops, third generation, fifth generation, here from Nuremberg, from Frankfurt, energy producers, grid operators. They're all interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin technology, but maybe some of them will get into Bitcoin when the price is at 300,000 or 400,000 because of volatility reason, or more adoption. And we see when we talk to some companies, they want to wait because they're afraid. What are my employees thinking about me? What are my customers, my suppliers thinking about me? And I had the same thoughts. I understand. I totally understand. And I can tell you, and also all the guests inside watching and looking at your podcast, your show, there is nothing bad happening to you guys. So decision makers, CEOs, integrate Bitcoin and get into public. Because I talked to Julian Linninger from Relay. We had been to this conference in Swiss, and he said there are already 250 companies listed. 250 companies listed on Relay, saving regularly on a regular basis in Bitcoin. That is amazing. But where are these companies in public, that these traditional companies? But these are the role models we need in the future. And I guess within the next 6 to 12 months, we will see lots of them coming out.
It's such an interesting topic when we think about, there are so many companies that have Bitcoin but just don't tell us because they don't want to go public with that. I want to first touch on your journey with that. Was there any bad experience from customers, suppliers, employees when you announced, like, hey, we now also have that Bitcoin strategy with TerraHash, but also on the balance sheet? Was there any bad experience, like, is it safe? Like, is the company going under because they are gambling on Bitcoin or anything like that?
It's a very interesting question, and I would love to sometimes be in those discussions at our company during the breaks when people talk, because I'm not always there. We have 300 employees, 3 companies, and you have to think about that. We sell our own spraying systems on a worldwide basis to Japan, to Australia, to North America. Lots of products going to Canada, and I did not get approached directly by anybody that said, oh, I cannot support you, and this is the reason why I will not buy your product anymore. I mean, when you're happy with this product and the price is okay, so the value proposition is fine, why should you go to another company because the owner decides on founding another company, going into new areas, new technology, innovative technology? So there were no such incidents like that with customers and suppliers, and with employees. I mean, think about that. It's also not only about financial statement and being a robust player and to have a robust balance sheet. It's also about the so-called corporate branding. I mean, everybody talks about corporate branding and how to find talent in your company. And I guess what I've seen so far, what I've experienced over the last 3-4 years, my colleagues, my employees, most of them are very, very proud that we also have this new company. I mean, even get invited to international podcasts like you. Nobody invited me before we had Bitcoin the startup TerraHash to international podcasts or speaking at international conferences or trade fairs, because it's such a new topic and disruptive topic.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we can see it probably again with the strategy, MicroStrategy comparison. They have now such a bigger exposure to customers because Michael Saylor just got a lot more famous in the financial world, a lot more famous in the CEO world, and he is a lot more on the CNBCs and all those players on this is making strategy better. Even the business that has actually nothing to do with Bitcoin. They have like an IT business that has not really anything to do with Bitcoin, but this also gets better from that. That's really interesting. So then the question for me is like, why are so many businesses still hiding?
You tell me. I don't know. So I guess we're in our bubble, and we think we came so far, and it's so professional, and there's so many experts in the business, and there is this billionaire in Mexico or whatever, and all the entrepreneurs, the CEOs in the States, and so on and so on. But obviously, uh, when you go on the streets and you look at the people walking around, maybe still 90% have never heard of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin technology, what is money truly. So that is still a big issue to educate, to bring the Bitcoin message to the people. And I guess, and we will talk about TerraHash and Bitcoin mining, I guess, in the second part. One angle to bring the technology to the people is what type of problems and challenges can Bitcoin and the technology really solve and address. So, and if you go to someone and say, "Hey, I have something here, please take it," and then you are going to be very rich soon. I don't know if that works. So when you go there, hey, there's a new technology like a protocol, and you mentioned that earlier, like the internet. It's decentralized and so on and so on. All those things, and maybe give them 2 or 3 books or send them 2 or 3 links to your podcast or other podcasts. And I guess then you see, is there a basic interest? Is there a spark in their eyes? Because then I like to help them. If there's only that's all BS and get away, then I'm like, okay, it's not your time yet.
Yeah, I guess we are really early in the education. I think if we are in this bubble, we kind of forget how early we really are. And I think every Bitcoiner who listens to a lot of podcasts or is a lot in the industry, just do the exercise and go out on a normal busy street and ask 20 people what they think about Bitcoin. And then you know how really early we are to this game.
I mean, just an example for you. 2 years ago, we had been to the Invest trade fair. It's about the investment, invest your money, this and that, and gold, silver, and all of these things. Obviously, also real estate, and we had the first booth there 2 years ago with my newly founded startup TerraHash, where we did show Bitcoin education, Bitcoin books together with Fab from Apricot Media, and this like a big booth for the whole Bitcoin industry. It was a first test, 2 years ago, and there were many people approaching us like, oh, that's speculation, that's only for criminals. I mean, their MicroStrategy was brand new, the only company, no Meta Planet, no 21 Capital, and all of these things you have now, no BlackRock ETFs, stuff like that. And also, yeah, speculation, criminals, nobody needs it, and so on and so on. Like, we've heard it all 2 years ago. And now, like, completely fresh and brand new experience. We had been at the trade fair in Munich, Intersolar Empower. It's a combined trade fair for energy solutions, software solutions, but also battery storage systems, solar power. There was not one person, and there were lots of business contacts we had with grid operators and so on, energy producers. Not one said these things. They were all interested, and they wanted to dig deeper. Like, okay, how much is this technology? How many kilowatts does it transform into digital monetary energy, and all of these questions going deeper. So, and they already decided on, okay, that could be interesting. That could be an interesting technology as a rack or as a container solution. And still, we've been the first booth, and it was a huge one of the biggest trade fairs all over Europe and in the world. It was the first booth, together with 2 or 3 smaller ones, where we addressed Bitcoin mining solely. I mean, you have to imagine that how early that is. There were like hundreds of companies showing their solar power and their battery storage solutions, and we've been the first company. And I can imagine, looking forward into the future, next year maybe 10, the year after maybe 25. This is also adoption.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.